So that's what the Book of Mormon has. It makes it where you can only walk away with the gospel of Jesus Christ, what he wants his followers to know, how he wants them to live, and basically how they can come to him. And I think it's beautiful, right?
What does the Book of Mormon say that the Bible doesn't say?
That's a really good question. Because it's a different.
Okay, so we'll hear what they say in a second, right? So what does the Book of Mormon say that the Bible does not say? It has clearly laid out the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? So what that means is, like, when you actually read the Book of Mormon, it makes it where you can't come with preconceived notions, okay? What I mean is, people take their preconceived notions and they read the New Testament in different ways to where you can have people walking away saying, hey, there basically is no free will because God has already determined everything that's going to happen, right? And that's how you get, Reformed Christian Calvinistic theology, right? God's already determined everything. He actually has determined who goes to heaven. He determines who goes to hell, right? And they read the same Bible that Orthodox Christians or people who follow the ideology of John Wesley, like Methodists, and they Arminians, right? They believe, no, we actually do have free will. We can respond, right? Because God gives us, prevenient grace, or he gives us grace in order to respond to his offering of Christ being, come down to pay for our sins. So, I mean, people come to the Bible with so many different preconceived notions, right? Because they've either been raised that way or they've decided to, hey, I'm not going to listen to what people have told me before. I'm going to read it, just quote unquote, see what it says. And so they highlight different verses and they, basically say, hey, this is what it's saying. And I'm going to tell my children and my followers, my ideas. And again, that's how you have different denominations. And I'm not saying Latter-day Saints don't read the Bible with preconceived notions. We clearly do, because we read it with, understanding it differently than other Christians, right? What I'm saying here is, when you read the Book of Mormon, it cuts away a lot of those preconceived notions, right? The teachings of the Book of Mormon, I've made videos about this. You can go, if I have time later, I'll link it below. I've listed a number of different things that the Book of Mormon corrects, right? Or rejects. For example, the Book of Mormon rejects original sin in the way as taught by Catholics, in the way as taught by the Reformed, right? It rejects that completely, right? And it's pretty interesting how it does that. So you can go watch that video. The answer is Christ, he brings us a full redemption from the fall, to where he redeems us from original sin so that we ourselves don't have anything to do with original sin. It's just based on our own actions. Do we accept Christ or reject Christ? You kind of see that in 2 Nephi chapter 2. And again, that's actually part of D&C 93. If you read the whole thing, it does say that. That's kind of going off topic. Another thing is, basically every point of the tulip doctrine in Calvinism is clearly rejected by teachings clearly found in the Book of Mormon, right? So basically what the Book of Mormon's doing is it rejects a lot of these teachings that arose during the Great Apostasy. And it's very interesting how it does that. It doesn't do that like blatantly, openly. The only one that you could say is kind of openly getting rejected is infant baptism, right? There's a very clear teaching that I believe Mormon chapter 8, Moroni chapter 8 just clearly rejects, right? Hey, you don't need to baptize infants, and explains it in there, right? All these other ones, it's doing so just by teaching sermons, just by teaching about Christ. It has prophets in the Book of Mormon, teaching either their children or their people, basically how to live, how to follow God, how to follow Christ. And in these teachings, in these sermons, that it's just clearly rejecting these preconceived ideas that people have when they're coming from like Calvinist backgrounds, when they're talking about original sin, all these things. So I think that's amazing, right? So that's what the Book of Mormon has. It has the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ, to where you can't bring in these ideas that were formed in the Great Apostasy, because it clearly rejects those. And it says, look, you can only believe as it says here, right? Not saying you can't believe what's in the Bible. It's saying we're not allowing you to come with preconceived ideas and saying, well, I'm going to highlight this verse of the Bible versus this verse. No, it has it clearly laid out. You can't say humans don't have free will, right? It clearly teaches in the Book of Mormon you have free will, right? It's up to you to decide to choose to follow Christ or not, to accept Christ or not, to choose, power of the Redeemer or power of the adversary, right? It's too clear to where you can't come and say, hey, you know what? There's going to be Latter-day Saints and they're actually going to be Calvinist Latter-day Saints. No, you just can't have that, right? So that's what the Book of Mormon has. It makes it where you can only walk away with the gospel of Jesus Christ, what he wants his followers to know, how he wants them to live, and basically how they can come to him. And I think it's beautiful, right? There's kind of an idea, if you take a plank of wood and you nail down one side, right? You can twist that plank of wood, right? It's not completely secure. You can move it one way or the other, right? But if you nail down both ends, you can't twist it. And so that's kind of like an imagery that people have when they say, look, you have the Bible and you have the Book of Mormon. You have the Bible and you have the restored gospel, and it's nailed down both ends. You can only understand one way, right, of what the gospel of Jesus Christ is. So that's why we say we have the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I think it's beautiful.